Hitting revenue targets is hard and requires constant hustle. Last quarter's success is already forgotten. Learn the mindset and tactics of today's most successful revenue producers in B2B marketing and sales. We call this the revenue hustle. I'm your host, Tom Hessen, navigating you on this journey. Today's show is sponsored by 9 Lenses, an interactive assessment platform that enables you to add instant value to your buyers and allows your sales team to tailor business conversations focused on the pain points each and every time. Check them out at 9lenses.com. All right, we're here for another episode of the Revenue Hustle. I'm your host, Tom Hessen, and today I have the distinct pleasure to welcome FX Reodo to the podcast. FX, welcome to the Revenue Hustle.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. So FX, you are the Chief Marketing Officer of Capgemini Invent in North America. That sounds like a big job. Why don't you give us a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, well, so my name is FX. The reason why I go by FX is because it stands for Francois-Xavier, which sometimes is a little bit difficult to say for some of my American friends. So here it is. That's my internal branding. I'm a Capgemini baby. Started my career here in North America about 11 years ago, working on social media and digital, and worked my way up the ladder in some ways. Over the last 8 years, I was based in Hong Kong in Asia Pacific, where I built the marketing and communication department of the company for the region. And about nearly 1.5 years ago now, I moved here back to the US. Where I have the pleasure to lead a great team of creative across the experience agency, innovation agency of Capgemini, which is branded as Capgemini Invent, and across a few other cool brands such as Frog, which is very recognized and very known on the market, and Synapse, which is a design company focused on complex engineering solutions.
Fantastic. Well, I'm very thankful you decided to come on here and share some of your insights with us. So you know how we do this. We do revenue rules on the Revenue Hustle. So why don't you go ahead and share your first revenue rule?
Yeah, so I think one thing that is pretty important in our job as marketers is really, and that would be my first revenue rule, which is really the importance of storytelling. So I define storytelling in my job in 2 ways, and I think maybe we can deep dive in them later. But the first way that I define storytelling is really that we are the garant of the soul of the organization that we work for. So that's almost like an introspection part of it, which is like, what do we stand for? Who are you? Who are we? How do we define ourselves in the market, and how do we sell the story coherently and end to end? And that's a very important thing for a company like Capgemini, which identity and culture is very strong, and which is represented every day by our consultants, and which at the end of the day is how our consultants and our people is how the markets and our clients see us, right? Because they interact with them every day. And then the second part of what's important for me in storytelling is when we market ourselves and when we talk about our services and the offers that we're trying to push to the market, I think it's more important to tell it from the story of our clients and how they kind of transform and how they change. And I think telling those stories is for me what's really, really important, because I see, I have the pleasure for working for a company that's doing pretty cool stuff with some of the nicest brand around the world. Every day, when I use product, when I interact, and I'm a consumer and I have experiences in a store or when I travel and things like this, there's always a little bit of Capgemini everywhere. So I think this is really cool to be able to tell that story from the angle of that we deliver than from ourselves.
Well, it's interesting about like your, the 2 points of storytelling. One is kind of the internal, having to define the soul, and then the other one is telling stories to your customers, because that's how they want to receive. They want to see themselves. They want to hear and solve their problems. They don't care about us and how long we've been around and all sorts of stuff, right?
So how did you come to the conclusion? I mean, I guess in a big organization, you have internal marketing and you
Yeah.
kind of have external marketing. And so I'm just kind of curious, um, have you always been kind of trained that way as a marketer, kind of the internal versus external?
Yeah.
Obviously as a CMO, you've kind of got both hats there, but
I
kind of
think
how
I
did you
think
think about that?
Yeah, I think, we are a people business, right? So we are 370,000 people strong around the world. Capgemini Invent ourselves, we're about 10,000 people across the world, very brilliant people, very smart. And it came to our understanding very, very, very fast that actually that our brand and the way that the experience that we were giving to our customers was our people. So there is no such differentiation as internal and external at Capgemini, because when you do marketing, right? Because the way that your brand messaging is being shared is only through the consultants that are there with the clients, right? So the way that your brand is experienced is only in the delivery of the project that you delivered for the client. So that's what it is to be, professional services B2B business. So everything that if you look at the tagline of Capgemini, which is kind of get the future you want, that's something that is both internal and external, right? So that's a good example of it. We talk to the people who want to work with us and want to build their career and grow at Capgemini and tell them, come here and get the future you want. You will be able to grow, you'll be able to train, you will be able to work with some of the nicest organizations around the world, define what's next. And then you go to the clients and you tell them, we're going to challenge you, we're going to help you, kind of assess and transform your business to better adapt to disruption. We're going to help you kind of find new business models. So I think both are intrinsically linked, right? Employee advocacy, the way the people are the ambassadors of our brand, really make internal to external and external to internal pretty obvious in our case.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because your internal people are external, right? I mean, that's the beauty of a global consulting business. So I suspect, tell me if this is right, like, is the internal marketing part, do you have a lot of input, right, on those messages, right? Versus maybe the external storytelling, you probably have a little more creative control, let's say, on the stories you tell, how you tell them, whereas internal, you may have a lot of other leaders that have a perspective, and they're maybe more difficult to tell the story internally versus externally.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're very, the way that we try to define Capgemini Invent and what it stands for the market is really on four different pillars, and I think those four different pillars have been almost like kind of an exercise of kind of interviewing the market, seeing what's out there as the opportunities, and also exactly as you said, kind of checking what are the capabilities, what is the thought leadership, and what are the key stakeholders that can input on what do we want to be famous for. And I think those four pillars are in the area of product innovation. So basically, we are the only one there that is able to bring innovation at every stage of the product life cycle. The ability to operationalize digital transformation, which I think is still a very huge market opportunity for us.
Mm-hmm.
The smart use of data, so basically from visualization to be able to extract, do data strategy, extract large data set, and do smart decision based on that. And the last one being the ability to define new business models, so very kind of the strategy consulting and then what's next for your business in this market. So if you think about how do you tell a story within Capgemini? I think that is our framework, essentially, of what we want to be famous at Capgemini Invent. And the idea, the role that Capgemini Invent has for the rest of Capgemini is we like to call it the tip of the spear. So basically, kind of introducing those four topics and kind of having the strategic conversation, defining the roadmap with the clients, for then the other large, capabilities and services of Capgemini to be able to then deliver at scale what it means from the IT, the development, the engineering, and the transformation at scale of those strategies.
I gotcha. Now, has storytelling always been an interest of yours? So, I mean, there's a lot written about storytelling. I've read a few good books about storytelling. I love kind of telling stories myself. I think it's just a very effective form of kind of communication. Just people have been wired to tell stories, and there's frameworks out there like Story Brand, right? There's a person who has a problem who meets a guide, right? So like, I'm just, tell me a little bit about your background with storytelling and
Yeah.
why that's important.
So I think it's very important for a few reasons. The first one is, there is overwhelming information out there. So there is, like, if you're a customer, you're constantly bombarded with ad and information and kind of things that are asking you to buy. If you're a citizen, you're bombarded with information, etc. Sometimes you distrust this information. And I think one of the things that we can learn from this is, today it's very difficult for brands to talk to people. It's better for people listen to people, they don't listen to brands anymore. So and that's what storytelling does for us, because if you're talking about something that is extremely tangible, such as I mean, people may go on our website and check the Tombot robot that has been built together with VCs in Seattle, and that robot is essentially a companion, a mechanical companion animal that helps people with dementia age gracefully, and it allows them to limit their time in hospitals and things like that. That's very tangible. That's the use of technology, the use of innovation to improve the human lives, and that's very easy to explain and very easy to pitch. And then I think it's clear. It makes innovation very clear and very tangible. And then our salespeople, who are people themselves, can tell those stories very simply. All people, who are not necessarily working on this project, can go to their friends, to their family, to their former classmates, etc., and tell that story. And that's how we expand our brand presence, and we expand what we stand for. Complex engineering solution in itself doesn't sound really, really sexy, right? So then when you really show what it can do for humans, and make it in simple words that everybody can relate to, then the story is being told in a way that makes sense, and that reinforces the brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I mean, in an organization of your size, right, and just in the marketplace being so busy, right, it's hard to get messages to move, right, or to be heard. And so if you think about, like, since the dawn of time, stories have been told over and over and over again. So we have stories, that have been passed down, either family stories or just country stories or whatever it may be. They've just been passed down from generation to generation. So what you're really saying is just you're using that art form of story to just kind of proliferate internally, because everyone can just tell a short, quick story, right, that is humanized, that's easy to tell, it's easy to receive, and that can get through some of that mass complexity of a large organization, right, and in even more complex market.
Yeah, and I think people now, when they want to work somewhere, when they want to hire a vendor, they care more and more around what is the end value of what I'm doing, what is the purpose of this organization I'm joining, what is the do I match in my mindset this company that I'm going to be working for and with, I think kind of having the storytelling very axis around kind of this end value delivered for the society, for the clients, is very a good way to make sure that you resonate to this expectation and of people. I think that's the best way to interact with our audience. I have just in mind at the moment the story that we published around the way that we use data and AI to check biodiversity in the Mojave Desert in the US, and how we are kind of tracking the evolution of the desert and the biodiversity there, and how it's helped the planet. And so this very tangible type of story, which is yes, technology can be frightening, yes, technology is difficult to understand, the value of technology can be challenged, but then you also have all of those things that are positive, tangible, efficient, relatable for people. And I think that's a way that we take something that is difficult to explain, which is a B2B brand, and that is a giant multinational organization.
Right.
Make it something that is very simple to understand and that you want to interact and want to work with.
Now, is this something that you coach your team on? Is this just something that's embedded into the way you guys work?
I think it is. I'm looking. If I'm thinking about my team right now, I think they are a lot more creative than I am. So I think they probably coach me better than I coach them. If I'm very frank with you, they're usually the one kind of coming up with the cool ideas, and so that's the way that it works usually.
No, that's great. And so you probably are then communicating these stories externally, right? So how are some of what are some of the mediums or paths to market that you can bring these other than your people, right? So that's probably your number one path to market is to tell these stories internally and they get carried to your clients. What are some other ways that these stories are told?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have realistically probably our marketing mix is made of about 60% digital channels. So everything that is around social media. As a B2B organization, LinkedIn is some channel that is very obvious to us. We try to expand into more intent and account based access to our clients to make sure that we serve them with content that they want to see. So that's I think a big piece of our channel. We still have. I think it's very important to be bringing insights and research and expertise to the debate. So we do have a few partnerships with large universities and with we push very much our content and our stories in the press as well, and try to have some of our spoke people and key experts contribute as much as they can, as their calendar allow them to be part of the conversation, essentially, because at the end of the day, we want to project expertise, we want to show that we're competent, and those are the people that are the best to put in the press, and I think we're still what I like. I mean, we have very strong vision around key industry events and what we call moments that matter. So we try to focus around where our clients are going to be to make big impacts from brand perspective. So most recently we were at South by Southwest, for instance, where it's an innovation and marketing mecca. Right. So a place where all of our buyers, in the area of customer transformation, in the area of everything that's related to design are. So we had a big sponsorship, which made us the design partner of South by Southwest, and we created an entire program around that to interact with the audience there, but also to kind of fly in our clients and interact with our existing clients there to enrich some of the relationships that we have. So having maybe those three levels of external marketing, which are really digital, really engaging through the digital channels, press and research. And then key moments for brand acceleration, I put it this way, are really kind of from kind of the lead acquisition and customer acquisition strategy and retention. That's probably the kind of the three main channels that we
got it. Okay, no, that's great. Okay, because I know marketing, a big B2B consulting organization, has its own set of challenges, which we won't have time to get into, right? Just trying to reach the very senior executives that you guys sell to and work with. It's different than someone out there searching for some software for a particular problem, right? You guys solve big problems. So, all right, well, let's roll into the second revenue rule. It's kind of, you started to touch on it a little bit, but why don't you give us the second revenue rule, FX?
Yeah, I think there was an easy segue from it from the previous conversation, but I think one of the revenue rules that for me is the most important one is always put your customer first. So it means we go a little bit less into hunting and a bit more into farming in some ways, from a sales strategy. So I have we have this idea that probably in a recession or in a slowing economy, such as the one that 2023 seems to be shaping as, there is your natural inbound from a marketing perspective, and opportunities coming in may reduce. So that's the moment that you need to kind of make sure that you have a very strong relationship with your customers, and you need to enrich your relationship with your customers. So this year particularly, but I think that's always a rule that needs to be at the center of everything we do.
Yeah, and I think without our customers, we're nothing, right? At the end of the day, and so I mean, I think it's we see this discussion around customers and their significance, right, in a down economy, just because we all know it's easier to keep and grow an existing customer than it is to find a new one, right? Just the costs. I was just reading today about just in kind of the SaaS world that new customer acquisition is way down, right? Just compared to what it's been in the past. And so top sales performers are still performing well, but there's a lot of medium and kind of poor performing that aren't selling anything. And it's just harder and harder. They were saying kind of like the order takers, people would just pick up the phone and someone would be on the other line saying, hey, I want to buy your software today, right? Those sorts of transactions aren't happening.
Yeah.
In an economy like this. So you've got to really focus in on your existing customers. Like, how are you guys executing on this customer first mentality?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us that's the entire realm of account intimacy building one, and account-based marketing two. So the account intimacy, it's how to become closer to the relationship that you have on the customer. If you look at Capgemini, and the company that I mentioned several times already is a very large company. Basically, you're trying to sell to different stakeholders in the organization, right? You may sell to large IT transformation project to the CIOs, the CTOs, and Capgemini Invent. When ourselves we're trying to sell some strategy and the transformation projects, we may want to extend that reach to CMOs. To other stakeholders in the organization, right? Chief strategy officer, chief product officer on the engineering front, etc. So there is an entire kind of how do you progress, in terms of footprint within the account. Sure, you can go on the market and acquire, leads, etc., and connect with new CMOs, etc. But the reality is, it's better to extend the relationship that you already have, right? So some of the channels and the tactics are related to a set of, accounts that we've decided are strategic for us, of course, and some of the way that we have our marketing budget and the tactics and the channels that I mentioned already before would be used to kind of deepen our relationship within these accounts. But I think the best way for a firm like Capgemini Invent and an agency like Frog to retain their customers is really to kind of show them content, show them a story. Going back to the thing that is challenging to them, Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about, at the moment, a campaign that we're running with a very large leisure and hospitality group that runs some parks around the world, and we've built a POV around the future of travel, which is a research piece. So what we've done as a marketing team, and that's very, very tactical, but I think that's a good example of that, is that we have kind of extracted from that future of travel what is relevant for them, and kind of created another piece or another kind of vision of the way that their own hospitality may change, and the new different types of experience that they may bring to their customers, etc. Kind of completely gave a little bit of a disrupting idea of what their future business model could be, and how it could be disrupted through some of those trends that we had identified, and show them a little bit the vision. So constantly challenging with your content and your thoughts, your customers allow you to not be a vendor, but really be a strategic partner of the right. Customer. And that's really the relationship that we want to establish with them, right? So the sales team, they stakeholder map, they ensure that we push the right solution and right capability, then understand the strategy of the organization, the marketing team. We need to come up with the content, the story, the channels that are allowing us to kind of map that strategy. So I think that sometimes a little bit in the trenches, for the different teams, but I think that's very fascinating to me, because that's also at the core of how we transform our go-to-market and work closer with sales to
Right.
sell more, to grow as a company, right?
Right, because a lot of, like, you have relationships at the firm, right? At these clients, you've designated them as the accounts that you want to target.
Yeah.
And so now you're essentially equipping the sales teams, the executives on the account, right, with these stories and content and points of view and research, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
right? So they're the ones carrying that message in the door, so to speak, right, with these clients to kind of engage them. Is that the right way in which you're
Yes,
reaching?
yeah, absolutely. And if you think about the strategy of any organization at the moment, and how do you become more strategic today to the agenda of any organization? Everybody is going to be caring about how do I become more sustainable, and how do I keep innovating, right? And sustainability and innovation are things that are very core to our value proposition, right, as a company. And illustrating and orchestrating this by what does it mean by sector, by stakeholders group, and kind of executive group, etc. And then, down to the account level of, this is the type of content that we can put for this account or this account, is really kind of equipping the sales to be able to, our sales colleague to be able to kind of lead those conversations and challenge our clients in their thinking.
Right, because so you're arming them with these challenging topics and points of view, and then they're able to translate that into a conversation that in theory could lead to opportunities uncovered, right?
And I think exactly. And I think what's very interesting is if you look at the way that usually a big banks or big insurance or a big retailer, they know retail, they know banking, or they know insurance way better than we do, right? So because that's their job. So they know their sector and the way that the sector is going better than what the consultancy do. And that may be a provocative thought for some of my sector colleagues at Capgemini, but that's just the reality of things, right? So what are they asking us to bring in as a value proposition? That's very that strategic thinking element, which is like really give us an eye from the perspective of, you have seen some of those best practices in our sector, and you have a sector POV, but not only, right? What is happening in those other sectors that may completely disrupt us? We've seen and that may completely help us lead the way, orchestrate, the ecosystem, the thought leadership, the vision, sometimes the policies that are going to come, etc. So I understand, what is there that we can do, and challenge me. So that's really how they conceive their relationship with us, right? So being able to input that into the marketing programs that we have and the content that we produce is very important.
One of the things that I see, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is people in your seat create fantastic content, thought leadership, points of view, very, challenging, right? Just forward thinking, leading in the marketplace. But the people on the ground that are going to walk that into a client they didn't conduct the research. They didn't build the point of view. They didn't, they're not that close to it, right? So what we see a lot of times is those sales executives or those client executives that need to walk that in, they oftentimes will feel uncomfortable talking about these things because they're not experts in that particular point of view. Or, like you mentioned the future of travel, right? How do you get those people comfortable around these points of view where they can feel comfortable and confident enough to go in and discuss it with clients? Because we oftentimes see that they're not, and have to kind of bring in an expert to kind of have the conversation on their behalf because they have the relationship, but they don't have the comfort around the topic. So I'm just kind of curious how you think about that?
Yeah, I mean it's a real challenge. That happens all the time. There is that's a possibility. There is also a lot of times where some people may have a behavior where they don't necessarily kind of make the effort of absorbing the content before they kind of share it. So that's also something that may be an issue. And to some extent also that's I think we need to use the content to educate ourselves and the market, right? So if you look at the way that the Capgemini Research Institute, for instance, kind of promote their research and promote their paper, and they're very well ranked on the list of consultancy research institutes, but they have series of trainings internally and externally on how to talk about it, what are the findings, how to use it. I think our CEO has a very strong focus around upskilling constantly. There is a very real culture in consultancy, and I think that's not only us to really authorize every colleague to spend hours and hours every month on kind of upskilling themselves, reading through content, attending those trainings, etc., to basically constantly stay on top of what is being produced and the POVs. That being said, that always come down to at the end of the day, that kind of the competencies and the ability of the consultants to be able to translate it and make it relate to the clients. It's very interesting for me because I don't necessarily have a consulting mind myself. I'm a creative and I'm a marketer, and I'm working surrounded by people that are very that have that mind, that it's been kind of a learning journey. But it's I'm always very impressed by the professionalism and the seriousness and the deep commitment that consulting requires for some of our colleagues. There's a very strong the framework and processes, etc. And of course it impacts the culture very strongly that we are and sometimes frustrates me as a creative or as a marketer. But you have to recognize that it's a job. It's that requires really an enormous commitment and enormous amount of work also to stay on top of those exactly as you said, stay on top. Basically staying relevant, and being able to constantly bring new values to your clients, to your customers, and to the market. So I'm very impressed at my colleagues, I have to say that.
Yeah, no, I've been in that job years ago, and there's a lot. You're immersed in the customer's world, and then you've kind of got the mothership kind of doing its thing, right? And back in the day, like I was sitting at my client every day, 5 days a week. I was there, right? Yeah. And sometimes you don't even feel like you work for your client. You don't really feel like you work for the mothership unless it's the emails and and then you got 2 or 3 other jobs. You got your client job, and you got 2 or 3 internal jobs. So yeah, there's a lot going on, which makes again, I think as a marketer, just makes it that much harder to kind of penetrate kind of the mind share of kind of the internal audience to carry these messages forward, just because it's there's just a lot happening there.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes full circle to, offering a employee value proposition, the soul of the company, that is very important for people to remain attached to it. Though sometimes they may be on client side, as you said, for a long time, and a tenuous attachment to the mothership, etc. So I think that's why the identity and the culture of the company is very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'm still very good friends with those folks that I worked with, many years ago. We just sat in that room, for years. And so it's amazing the bond that you can build just around the company and the culture and that. So no, but thank you for sharing that. Those are 2 great rules. So tell us a little bit, FX, how did you get into marketing?
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting for me because I got into marketing because I had in business school, I went into that direction because it's going to be sounding a little bit weird, but there was for me, marketing was very, very close to advertising. I really pictured it as like the agency world, the advertising, etc. And I was fond of that French book that is named 99 francs. So there used to be our currency in France. from an author that is named Frédéric Becbédé, who wrote a book around the world of advertising, which was, a lot of glam, etc. That was very cool, and I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. So I did my internships, etc., and I built my career, and I ended up building my career in this domain. And I stayed engaged. I stayed engaged into marketing and communication, and I stay engaged into Capgemini because the growth of the company, the way that it transformed all the time, and keep up essentially, and the different opportunities that they gave me, working from HQ, working in APAC in Hong Kong, working here now for a super creative agency that's doing super cool stuff, etc. I've built my career in this environment and I love it, so I stayed in.
Yeah, so you've been in B2B services marketing, right?
Yeah, time.
Yeah, so no, that's I know that's a hard job. It sounds like just in our conversations, you have a pretty strong kind of lead generation mindset, where a lot of B2B firms, in consulting, don't think about leads, and it's just brand building, right? And that could probably be a whole nother revenue rule you have there. But just where did you pick that up? That kind of idea of in these big firms, it's not natural.
There's just one reason, to be honest. It's because I've always, though I worked for a company that is very established, including with its brand that is very established, I worked in effectively challengers part of the organization, right? I worked for Capgemini in Asia Pacific, and it scaled from a few €100 million to over €1 billion now of revenue, in a market with many different countries and very, different markets, etc. So we were a challenger brand essentially. So we were acquiring customers. So we were not in the world of necessarily farming. We were just growing. So we literally, we had the backup of the large organization in the back, but we were essentially a startup, right? So that's and we were very successful. And I think it's very similar here for Capgemini Invent and Frog, etc. In North America, we are over 1,000 people strong. So it's a significant, sizable consultancy, but it's not where it should be. So we're really much working towards growing it and extending our footprint, and we're very much in that mindset too. So I think that's where I acquired by doing this. I think that's really what that's really the formation from the different roles.
That's a great connection, because you had to. That's the only place where you're going to get business back. In Asia, there you had to go get customers, and so that was this really strong skill set that you developed, and you're now translating here, kind of building a slightly bigger startup. But
yeah.
Well, awesome. So where can we follow you online?
You can follow me on LinkedIn mostly. I think that would be the best. That's perfect.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on to the Revenue Hustle. I love the 2 rules, storytelling. I love storytelling. And obviously, anytime we're talking about customers, and obviously you took it to the transformation and kind of the internal mechanics of how to do that. That was fantastic. So thanks again. Please come back and do it again.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for tuning in to the Revenue Hustle. This episode has been brought to you by 9 Lenses. Close more deals with interactive assessments. Check them out at 9lenses.com. See you next time.